Going on, guys? Today we're going to be doing a bit of a different kind of video because today is Friday, 2nd of September, and tomorrow starts college football. I know technically it started yesterday, as we will see in my rankings of players that I'm watching this college football season. Uh, yeah, so just to start off with, I want to say I'm obviously not going to get all of the mentions. I'm not just doing this, or all the players, and I'm not just doing this as a list of like my favorite players. I'm doing this as a list of players that I think are going to be the most draft eligible and most like highly scouted. I think that this is the most important thing to look at with these 10 players, and with that being said, I'm scouting my honorable mentions. I have a total of four, and it is Will Levis. He's the quarterback out of University of Kentucky. I think he's currently my quarterback four or quarterback three, and I think he's going to be doing really well this year. I have Cam Smith, the cornerback out of University of South Carolina. He's all right. Not my favorite, not my least favorite. He's just a decent cornerback. I have Keishan Butte, the wide receiver out of LSU. Is currently my wide receiver two or three. I'm not sure. I'm kind of mixed on one of my players that I'm watching this year, and depending on how what the player that I have on this list does this year depends on if he's going to move up or not. But for right now, he's just an honorable mention because of the players that I'm watching. And finally, I have Dylan Morris, the quarterback out of University of Washington. This is more of like a personal favorite because I know the guy personally. We went to school together uh, in high school, and he's just a really good player who I don't think has been doing that well in college, but I would like to see him succeed. So I'm just gonna add him on this list. Just that being said, let's move right on into the list. Starting off, we have number 10. We have Bijan Robinson. He's the running back out of University of Texas. And I'm going to be, just to mention, this is all personal, and I'm going to be trying to play like highlights of these players so we can be watching them. I'm not going to have any sound. I'm going to be talking up over them. But yeah, I'm really, really excited to watch this player perform. I think he's going to be a fantastic running back this season for the University of Texas. He is absolutely fantastic, an absolute monster, and watching him run, he's one of the best running backs. I think Saquon Barkley, and I don't think that people really of a running back Saquon Barkley was when he was at Penn State. I think that Bijan Robinson is going to be very, very highly drafted, very, very highly scouted. I don't know if he'll go in the top 5 necessarily, but I think that he's going to be one of the best in the NFL or in college football at the minimum. And moving on to my number 9 pick, I know that we already watched this player last night play, and he played fairly well, I would argue. But it's going to be Kedon Slovis. And I think that Kedon Slovis has the potential to be a fantastic quarterback in the. When we watched him at USC, he was all right. He doesn't have like the best pocket presence, some areas that he needs to improve on. But if you watch this play right here, this play action, he sells it off perfectly and has linebackers bite. And I think that he's going to end up being a fantastic quarterback. I don't know if he'll be currently one of the top players that I have as watching highlights from last night's game to put this over, but I think that he could be one of the best and highly scouted players coming out. He has very, very good mobility with his legs, and people forget that he's a dual threat quarterback. But yeah, I think that Kedon Slovis is hands down going to be one of the best players to watch this season. I think he's going to be very entertaining, and I'm very excited to watch this pick. Very curious to see how they do. And then that's going to be the number 9 player on my list. And moving on to number 8, we have the one and only Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's one of my favorite players from my favorite college, the wide receiver from Ohio State. He is a fantastic player, and this is also a little highlight reel for when it comes to one of my players who I'm going to mention later. But yeah, currently I have Jackson Smith-Njigba at number 1 receiver. A lot of people have him as their number 2 receiver. I would understand why. I would like to see him play just a bit better this season before I for sure say if he's going to be drafted first overall before Keishan Butte or a player I have later on. And the reason I put him above Keishan Butte and didn't just mention Butte or didn't have Keishan Butte here and give Jackson Smith-Njigba an honorable mention is I think that Jackson Smith-Njigba's speed is just fantastic. Watching him go off of the line and immediately get set up the score, even right here, as he just gets a short little route and just takes it to the house. It reminds me of Tyreek Hill a little bit, where he gets a short pass and he's just gone with lightning fast speed. Jackson Smith-Njigba isn't nearly as fast as Tyreek Hill, I don't think, but he is still a fantastic player, and I can't wait to watch him a little bit further down this year. The number 5, we have probably my favorite cornerback in this draft class that we have coming up. It's Kelee Ringo from Georgia. I think that he is always on, and he's a very good ball hawking corner. Always on the receivers. He knows exactly where he's going to be and where the receiver's going to go. He's very hard to follow with your eyes, and he has very good hip setting motions and foot setting motions, and he knows how to read quarterbacks' eyes. I think he's going to be one of the best cornerbacks to come out of this class, and he played fantastic in the national championship game against Alabama, and I just can't wait to watch him play. I think that Georgia, while they did lose a lot of talent, is going to be pretty good still compared to what they were last year. Maybe not the best still, but yeah, even watching him jump into the backfield like that is just awesome. I cannot wait for this player. I'm not sure if he's my number 1 cornerback in the class yet. I think he might be. Don't know what other cornerbacks are better based off of like just preliminary research and just quick little searches. I can't think of any off the top of my head. So far, I have Kelee Ringo, and that's pretty much all I know. But yeah, I think that Kelee Ringo is probably going to go really high. He could be a top 10 draft pick, but I'm not entirely certain if that's where he's going to go. For sure going to go top 10 or top 15, and I would love to see him on maybe the Steelers or another cornerback friendly team like the Cardinals. I'm not entirely sure, but just watching his ball skills, I love watching him. He comes in for me as my number 8 player or number 7 player I'm watching. Coming in at my number 6 spot of players that I'm watching the most for this season, we have Jordan Addison, the wide receiver who transferred from Pitt to USC. And there's no footage of him in USC uniforms yet, so I'm just going to be showing off the plays of him at Pittsburgh, and he did really good at University of Pitt. One of the best players that I got to watch play at University of Pitt. That he had Kenny Pickett throwing him the ball, who, as we know, was a first-round draft pick this year, and he was fantastic. Just him being able to jump in front of safeties and cornerbacks to grab the ball and linebackers and just steal it from them as they were intercepting it is fantastic. He has really strong hands, and he's very, very, very fast. He's one of the only players I would put above Jackson Smith-Njigba. I would put him at my wide receiver 2 spot currently, just because I won't think Jackson Smith is better. But I'm a little bit more excited to watch Jordan Addison and see if he can develop at USC, and I can't wait to see where he goes from this season on. And he comes in at number 2. Moving on to number 5, we have one of my favorite SEC quarterbacks coming in, and this is going to shock some people, I think, but it's Bo Nix. Bo Nix played at Auburn, and now he transferred to University of Oregon, and I think he's going to be doing really good at University of Oregon as we see him check down to the running back there. But I think that Bo Nix has just some consistency issues, and if he gets a decently coached team, then he could be a really, really good player, as we see him put it right in the arms of the receiver there. Led it perfectly, and the receiver managed to get to the ball wide open to score. I think that he is a very decent quarterback. He reminds me a little bit of Mitch Trubisky, who's now plays for the Steelers, and maybe not Mitch Trubisky when he was in college, but he reminds me of a bit of like professional Mitch Trubisky in the NFL. You know, he makes decent decisions, but sometimes he makes bad decisions. I'm very curious to watch him play this season at Oregon and see how he does in the Pac-12, which is a weaker division and conference than the SEC is, where they had really, really good talent. And I think we might be surprised this season to see Bo Nix pop off. I think he's going to be doing really decent this season, while a bunch of people don't actually think he's going to be that good. But I'm very, very, very excited to watch Bo Nix, and he's my number 5 player that I'm going to be watching this. Coming in at number 4, we have probably my favorite player from this draft class upcoming, other than one other player that I'm going to mention later on, and this is none other than the linebacker Noah Sewell. I love Noah Sewell. I think he's going to be such a good player. He's such a strong, powerful linebacker, and every time he's on the field, I'm excited to watch him. I don't like Oregon very much, but I watch them willingly just for Noah Sewell. Every time I play Madden and I get like a 2023 draft class, I try to draft him. He is my linebacker 1 right now. Mainly because one of the other players I have on this list I don't consider a linebacker, even though he's technically considered a linebacker. I consider him more of an edge. But yeah, I love Noah Sewell. I think he is fantastic. He is the brother of Penei Sewell, who is an offensive tackle for Oregon. Noah Sewell is just so fast and so strong, and he had some very, very good games last season. I think he's going to shock some people, and he's going to just skyrocket up the draft boards this season. as we can watch him just go right off the edge and right into the middle to stop the running back. And we see him here rushing the passer as he just manages to block and reach the quarterback's eyes. And yeah, I love Noah Sewell. I could talk so much about how much I love him as a player and think that he's probably the best player, or the best linebacker in the class this year. But instead, I'm just going to leave it at he's my favorite player of this draft, and I only have him at number 5, which shows just how amazing this draft class is going to be. Moving on to number 3, we have probably the most controversial place I'm going to put him. So we have the Alabama quarterback Bryce Young. He was the Heisman winner last year, and I don't think that he should have won the Heisman, if I'm being honest. He's a very good quarterback, gonna go high. He's not even my quarterback 1 in the class this year, unless something changes drastically in the next 3 months. He's currently my quarterback 2 behind one other player that we're gonna mention. And yeah, I love Bryce Young. He's had the luxury of playing with Jamison Williams, who was one of the fastest players in the class last year. He did very, very good. I mean, obviously because he won the Heisman, but I personally think he robbed the Heisman from someone else who deserved it a little bit more, who we're going to talk about in a minute. And yeah, I think that Bryce Young is going to be a very good player at Alabama. I think he's going to probably make them or help lead them to a national championship or playoff berth again. But I still don't think that he is like the best quarterback in the league or the college class. I think he would fit very well in like with the Lions or maybe with another quarterback needy team like the Texans, maybe, or I don't know where else he could go. But I don't think that he is going to be the best quarterback this season. I think he has a case to be made for quarterback 1, but he's not my favorite quarterback. That's going to go to someone else in just that we'll talk about in just a minute. But overall, I think Bryce Young is going to have a very good season this year. I am watching him very closely to see how I can make sure he develops and see if there's anything else that I notice he does either poorly or great. You know, his pocket presence is really good. I see flashes of him scrambling when he's being rushed. Reminds me a little bit of Russell Wilson, as we see from some of those plays. And, you know, that's not the best comparison for him. I think that he is a little bit of more of a scrambler. He's a very good athlete, and I'm very, very excited to watch him this season, but I'm not entirely convinced that he is the quarterback 1 of the class that everyone. And now coming in, at number 2, we have my 2, like these next 2 players are my top 2 favorite players in the draft. I'm very, very excited to watch them play this season. I'm going to be watching very, very closely. Starting off with number 2, we have my favorite quarterback in the class, and I think it's obvious for anyone who knows me, it's going to be CJ Stroud. I have a bit of concerns with him because we heard that he was this like dual threat player who could run very well, but last season he had negative 20 rushing yards, and I would like to see him run a little bit more than just sit in the pocket, because I'm more of a running style quarterback, like player who I like, and I'm very excited, and I really want to watch him play good this year, but I would like to see him run a bit more than he has. I think he had the luxury last season of playing with 2 or 3 of the best receivers that Ohio State's ever had to play with. Unfortunately, they didn't make it all the ways, but I think that he's had the luxury of playing with 2 very, very good players, debatably 3. The 2 being Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, both of which were first-round picks, and number 3 being Jackson Smith-Njigba. And he also had Jeremy Ruckert, as you saw, who just scored him for the touchdown. As of recording on the 2nd, which is a Friday, tomorrow, which is Saturday the 3rd, Ohio State will be playing Notre Dame, who has a very, very good defense, and I can't wait to see how Ohio State plays against a good defense. It's going to be one of the best games of the season, I bet. I'm very, very excited to watch him play, and CJ Stroud comes in at number 2. But my number 1 best player to be watching in this draft is none other than Will Anderson Jr. For right now, he is my number 1 player in the draft. He is the player that I think will go number 1 overall. He is my favorite player in this class. I hate Alabama so much, but he is my number 1 player. This guy just shreds every defense and destroys offensive linemen, eats them like it's breakfast. He should have won the Heisman last year. There's no reason why he didn't get a Heisman vote. For anyone, like, I do not like Alabama, but I think that this is like the only acceptable answer for Heisman. I think he's going to be one of the finalists this season for Heisman. and I think he will most likely be able to win it. He is an absolute monster, and yeah, he is my number one favorite player in this upcoming draft class. I cannot wait to watch him. The only other player I like nearly as much as him is Noah Sewell, and I love Noah Sewell. I am very, very excited to watch him just shred defenses and offensive linemen all over again, and I can't wait to watch him. And with that being said, yeah, that's going to be my top 10. I'm very, very excited to see how these players do this season. I am very curious. I'm hoping that they do pretty well. And yeah, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Take it easy.